Hi, Dr. Dave Webster. You're on my Stance of the Political Parties page on my website, and in particular, you're now on the NDP page. And I really have a particular problem with the NDP party, first and foremost, because of all the political parties, they present themselves as being the party of the little person. You know, they're championing the causes of whatever big business and big government and so on against the little person. And in fact, as I look at Ms. Horwath's website, it says here, putting you first. Yeah, well, I'm about to challenge Ms. Horwath to put you first, and in particular, if you happen to be a patient in this province. The fact is the NDP party has particular intimate knowledge of all of the issues that are on my webpage. The reason, first and foremost, being that the two previous NDP health critics have, in fact, been residents of Sudbury, where I come from. And I've met with both of them personally, and in particular, Ms. Shelley Martel. I assure you, who the previous health minister, who was in fact married to the leader of the NDP party, Mr. Howard Hampton, was more than well aware of these issues. And so this short video, Ms. Horwath, is to challenge you to put people first. And in particular, I want to see if you're prepared to put cancer patients first. Because the reality is that you are well aware of the fact that Ontario patients, and in particular cancer patients, are absolutely the last place in the world. They have the most restricted access to PET scanning in the world, and you actually have some detailed knowledge about individual patients who approached, for example, Ms. Shelley Martel when she was your health critic. Yet, although on the surface it sounds like you support healthcare issues and in particular PET, the reality is you've absolutely refused, and your healthcare critics have repeatedly refused when given the opportunity to challenge the Minister of Health to do so. So you know what, I'm going to do everything I possibly can using the internet and social networking to make healthcare a key election issue this time. And I'm going to be in particular challenging you, Ms. Horwath, to show that how you are putting cancer patients and patients first, or maybe you didn't mean them, I don't know. But just a brief history, and that is that with Ms. Shelley Martel, a local Sudbury patient ended up, he's about 48 and was given a death sentence. He had colon cancer, and based on his standard investigation was told that there's nothing further we can do. You're riddled with cancer. Just get your affairs in order. This patient actually had to argue with his oncologist to get a PET scan, which is interesting. But eventually he did get a PET scan, which he paid for himself. That PET scan showed that in fact he had a single spread of cancer, a single metastasis, which was surgically resected. So that this patient was very upset about it, and his wife was very active in this, and so she went to Ms. Martel. I went there as well, and I had a number of meetings with Ms. Martel, and I gave her an enormous number of documents. However, it turns out that every June the various healthcare critics from the opposition parties get to meet with the government's Minister of Health. In this case, with Shelley Martel, it was in fact Mr. George Smitherman, who was in fact the bulldog that moved this entire program forward for the Liberal government. But the fact is they do this, and it is recorded. So there it was, Ms. Shelley Martel with an enormous amount of information, very damaging information, in particular about Mr. Smitherman, who had basically broken a law of the province in not responding to a letter that was addressed to him, a very serious letter addressed to him by the most senior member of Mr. Smitherman's own PET steering committee, making very serious accusations. But the reality is Ms. Martel sat there and made sure that she didn't ask Mr. Smitherman a single embarrassing question. I was furious. I demanded that I have all the documents, back from her because, yet again, I was shattered. I tried to have faith in the political system, and I'm thinking, really the NDP party of all parties, surely we can look up and trust them, and yet here it was, smack in the face again. Absolute classic, what we've all come to, sadly, to expect from our politicians. So, Ms. Horwath, I'm going to challenge you and do everything I can during this election to challenge you. Your current health critic, Ms. France Delnunez, is also from Sudbury. And all I can say is this, that when France sat in my office and I showed her some cases which are caught in the spotter zone of the process that you clearly support because you refuse to challenge it, she was truly shocked. I mean, you can't fake that. That she was truly taken aback by what by what she'd seen and what the result of the government process to block access to PET and other healthcare issues has done. So this is it. I'm going to do what I can to challenge you, and I'm encouraging everybody watching this video to do whatever you can to make this an election issue for all the political parties. Because if you think a change in government is going to have any change in how healthcare is approached in this province, then you're going to be sadly mistaken. So Ms. Horwath, you clearly support, because you refuse to challenge, the Liberals' approach. And I'm going to ask you, now that it's election time, none of this, shaking hands and all those smiling faces and making all those empty promises we've all come to expect from politicians during election time, and the kissing of the babies and whatever just simply is we get fed up with it. But anyway, the bottom line is this. I want you to do this, Ms. Horwath. I want you to now stand up. Do you have the courage to do so? Stand up and put cancer patients first. And I want you to look into their eyes and explain to them why you, as the leader of the New Democratic Party of Ontario, back the use of scientifically baseless, evidence-based medicine tools, which have led to charges by national bodies of experts in science and medicine calling them unethical trials on cancer patients, ultimately even immoral processes used by the government to block access for patients to PET scanning. I want you to defend your party's support of that approach. Secondly, what I want you to do is now offer up your party's support for the government's cancelling of the technical fee, which is part of the Diagnostic Imaging Code for OHIP. You are well aware, and I've talked to Ms. Jelinek about this repeatedly, that if you can predict the sun's coming up, what you can predict is that this is going to lead to a major, blockage or restriction in access to all diagnostic imaging tests. The government, the government, with your support, basically has been extraordinarily successful taking cancer patients to the last place in the world, and they're about to ramp that up and make sure they have restricted access to all diagnostic tests. I've explained that in another video to people, but the bottom line is that by removing the technical fee, the quality of service was going to go down. Absolutely, the ability to get tests, your waiting lists are going to go up. Some tests will simply have to be canceled. Eventually, at some point, private clinics and even hospitals may simply have to shut their doors, because once they've run out of their very strict budgets, either they do the patients for free and therefore ultimately have to pay to have patients done, or they just don't offer the tests. So that's it, Ms. Horwath. That's my challenge to you. Show us how you're going to put us first and stand up and defend your party's support for the Liberal government process to what they're doing to healthcare in this province. Are you prepared to do so? I hope so. And for those watching the video, again, I can't encourage you strongly enough to absolutely do not let up on Ms. Horwath and your various local NDP candidates. Make this an election issue, and we will end up with, if we finally force politicians to be open, transparent, and accountable, guess what? Besides better healthcare, we might actually end up with a political system we might actually be able to have some faith in. So thanks. Do what you can. Have a good day. Bye-bye.